Beat. 2, 3, 4. How was the wedding, by the way?
Fun. It was very fun. Good distraction from watching Atlanta United cough up a late goal again.
What was I'll go ahead and ask, what was the most enjoyable thing other than the nuptials themselves? How was the open bar? How was the noshables? What was the
food was really good. There was a very tender fall apart beef short rib that was fantastic. So the food was very good. Open bar was great, but the food was very good. Gave you a good base so you could utilize that open bar to its fullest extent.
I was gonna say that's what we're staring at, man. That's one of the big benefits of going to a ceremony like this.
Yes.
We got a couple things to talk about, and since this is Copa week, I wanted to start off the discussion with you about the men's national team. And when it comes to success / failure / expectations, all these things, let me start this way. When that first starting 11 rolls out, what are you anticipating and how much information are you pulling from the two friendlies that probably drove folks more crazier than they should have? What information are you taking with you from those two friendlies where you get thumped in one, you draw in the other, you take that information and come forward? What information are you pulling forward to get you ready for Copa when it comes to the U.S. team?
Well, I think in both friendlies, we saw that Berhalter is going to play Joe Scally as right back. He's not going to try to put another player back there who maybe is more similar to Dest in an offensive strategy. But Joe Scally seems like he will be the starting right back. That's one of the questions. The other question is because I think it's very fair to deduce that Tyler Adams will not be 90 minutes fit for who knows how long. It will probably be either Johnny or Yunus Musa in that kind of holding midfield position. I don't want to call it a true six because, the defensive work rate for both of those guys is not the level of Tyler Adams. But you're lucky in that Bolivia is not a team that's going to be particularly possession-minded. So you won't need necessarily a destroyer-type midfield to win balls back frequently. Hopefully you'll be able to dominate possession and use either Johnny or Yunus to dictate tempo, dictate aggressiveness from that midfield position. But that's the other question. I don't know if we have an answer. It could be determined based on who the opponent is. I think the goal is that you can start Tyler Adams in the Uruguay game because that is the game you need your best 11 to get a result. Or maybe the goal is, and this is crazy, John, so go with me on this journey. You win both of your first two matches. So the Uruguay game is essentially unimportant. And you can then even rest Tyler a little bit more. So that would be the question is who does start at that sixth position. I think the rest of the lineup writes itself, to be quite honest. I think you're going to see Way on the right, Balogun at the top, Pulisic on the left, and then your two kind of attacking midfielders will be Gio and Wes. And that, I think everything else is pretty much the same too. You saw Jedi, Ream, and Richards play as your other defenders alongside of Scally at right back. And despite Abby crying about Miles Robinson not playing any minutes in the last two friendlies, there's an indication of where he stands on this depth chart. Sorry, I don't have to defend him anymore. He's not ours. He belongs to Cincinnati.
Get to it.
If he ain't playing, then that should tell you something.
Uh-huh.
He elected to go play in Cincinnati instead of trying to challenge himself in a better league, and now you see what happens.
How concerned are you about Josh Sargent?
And from a personal standpoint,
from an injury perspective, availability standpoint.
I'm not, because we have Falarin Balogun and Ricardo Pepi and Haji Wright and Tim Weah, who all can play as a kind of center striker if you need. From a personal standpoint, the Josh Sargent injured again is not great. And the fact that it seemed like he was pretty much injured the entire. I mean, I don't think he's been healthy in 2024. It seems like, taking from what Norwich coaching staff and medical staff have said almost repeatedly. That is concerning. But I think if you're talking about like, our starting striker is hurt. Well, he's not our starting striker. Our backup striker is hurt. Well, we have Ricardo Pepi. Like, it's not like Sargent is somehow a necessary component here. And you can replace them up to 24 hours. The deadline is 24 hours before the first match. So if he truly isn't able to go, which again, he did not train with the team at all during this past friendly window, then, you can bring someone else in. I don't know if it'll be Tim Tillman. It wouldn't surprise me if they try to bring in another striker. So maybe that's where our favorite U.S. Open Cup hero, Brandon Vazquez, comes in. Reminder that Brandon Vazquez was not the Brandon Vazquez of today when he was here in Atlanta.
Correct.
I like to rewrite history here in the Atlanta United fan base. But
I think that Brandon has benefited from the system that Pat Noonan put him in Cincinnati.
You mean players thrive in a system and not necessarily everywhere they go? That's shocking, John.
Just saying.
But no, I think he got the benefit of being the number one in Cincinnati, because they were just a bad team when he went there. Mm-hmm. Pat Noonan came in, revitalized how they play. He's obviously playing with some very good players as well now in Monterrey. And I think he has benefited from that and used that to improve himself. And I think if you're looking at a guy who, if you need to call him in because Sargent can't go, I would prefer Vazquez over Tillman, because I think when you look at the midfield, you have a Tillman in midfield already. And I don't think you necessarily need another kind of Timmy Tillman type player.
When you look at the starting 11 in your head, what concerns you the most about it, regardless of the opponent?
If we score.
Okay.
This team struggles to score. Greg Berhalter's system struggles to produce goals at a consistent level. You can look at the Jamaica game and you scored 3, but it took you 95 minutes to score 1. And Bolivia is going to play similarly to Jamaica in the fact that they're going to park multiple buses, possibly a mountain in front of the goal. And that is concerning. Panama will do something similar. They're not quite a bunker team, but they are a counterattacking team. And that is concerning, because this team struggles to actually stop me if you've heard this, if we talked about a team like this on this podcast before, but this team struggles to take advantage of the possession advantages they create. And if you're not going to score when you have the possession momentum, if you're not going to score or even just create opportunities through your possession, it's not great. Looking back at like yesterday, you saw an England team that dominated the game, but left it very late, decisively, and a team in Serbia who, not bad, had chances. And you don't want to give Bolivia or Panama hope, especially Panama, because Panama is decent enough to capitalize on their chances when they get them, as we saw in World Cup qualifying when they beat us. But I will also say, I think there's a lot of hand-wringing or consternation about the Panama matchup, because yes, they've been better recently. Yes, they technically beat us in the 2023 Gold Cup on penalties. But the last time our A team played their A team, we beat them 5-1. So hopefully at home, you get a similar result. But that's the key, John. You got to, you cannot, Greg, you cannot not win your first 2 games. If you tie any of those first 2 games, buddy, pack your bags, because I don't want you to stay around anymore. That is not the level that you need to be competing at. You cannot give yourself work to do against Uruguay, because then you're probably not advancing to the knockouts.
Jared Smith joining us in hour number 2. Bart is coming in, and we're discussing the USMNT, Jarrett. And Bart is laying out the philosophy for success and talking about Miles Robinson and his probable apparent spot at the back, which is with his Tookus on the bench at the moment, and all this kind of stuff. So when we're discussing the MNT, Jared, as we get ready for Copa, what's running through your brain when it comes to the national team?
I caught the tail end of what Bart said, and it's basically that you first 2 games you have to take care of business. You have to. That's because you don't, like you said, you don't want to go into Uruguay needing something. You would love to go into Uruguay sitting on 6 points and being, hey, do we want to like rest some guys? Do we want to try some things? Do we want to get weird? Because like, who cares? Depending on how.
And remember, Jared, the reward of either winning or losing is playing Colombia or Brazil, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean,
Both doors involve pain. It would be very funny for what it's worth if you got Brazil again and just played them out to a 120-minute draw. Ronaldinho would just might combust.
he's going to climb the statue and jump off.
Are we sure that's not a work?
He falls into that category of former player who keeps talking because when talk clicks happen, that it's hard to tell if it's a work or a shoot, and there's always the chance with people like that they work themselves into a shoot.
Mm-hmm. That's
ultimately it's you go get 6 points from your first 2 games, then you figure out how you want to deal with Uruguay, but if you don't get anything out of Uruguay, that's okay, no big deal, because you took your points from your first 2 games because you have a favorable group.
Mm-hmm.
Go handle business.
Jarrett, my question, if you don't mind, John, I'm going to ask.
Go for it. Yeah, do your thing.
So we've seen in the last 2 friendlies a U.S. men's national team play against a crowd, that was very much decidedly full of yellow shirts and very much not cheering for the U.S. men's national team. Now, I could be blind to this fact, but I would assume that we won't have to worry about that too much against Bolivia and Panama. Do you think that helps at all, or does it not make a difference?
I honestly, so this is one of those things where I go back to having a conversation with Jeff Lorenowitz back in, I think, 2018, where he talked about playing, how hard it was to play in New England. Not because Revs fans were vicious, because they didn't exist. Playing in that empty-ass Gillette Stadium because Robert Kraft kept it open for Revs games, so was at times worse than playing against a hostile crowd because there was no energy. I'm not as... you're always going to have nobody just rolls into a CONCACAF road match and strolls through it. But at least if it's like when you had a Brazil crowd, when you had a Colombia crowd, if you play somebody and they bring a ton of people, at least there's some energy to draw off of, because I think even as a professional, you can still draw off of the negative of, they're booing us. Oh, well, let's go make their day worse. I'm fine seeing that crowd, and look, that's what you're going to get because you play in a country that is a melting pot of different cultures, and especially in Atlanta, where you have a large number of people who have moved here, either through refugee status or through, means of they moved and they landed in Atlanta because it was the place for opportunity for them in this country. You're going to get partisan crowds. I'm fine with partisan crowds as long as there's crowds. My concern is always if it's too dead in there, that nobody can feed off of it, because I think you can feed off of even antagonistic energy.
Yeah, looking at the ticket sales and tickets remaining for both games, I am quite concerned about the actual attendance for these. Maybe charging $80 for a ticket for these games probably wasn't the smartest idea.
Thought,
but
maybe.
I'm not calm to ball. What do I know?
I mean, you're looking at it from the standpoint of economics. You're not looking at it from the standpoint of we want to sit there and charge this for the sake of economics.
No, I agree with you. It's a conversation that we're gonna have. We're gonna have forever and ever. Amen. I think is just how expensive it is to go to some of these games. It's cost prohibitive for some people.
Mm-hmm.
It sucks because yeah, you'll get to the point where like, well, we could all go to the game, or we could pull it up on a stream, even if we paid $15 a month for Max or whatever the hell, or TNT or whatever.
Yeah, WBD.
We could pull it up. Yeah, we could pull it up on a stream, even if it's an illegal stream, because that's the thing that happens still.
Not that we condone or endorse that behavior.
We condone or endorse that behavior, but look, piracy exists in a world where you block some things and you make things difficult for people. But I could host it on a stream, project it on a wall if I wanted to, or put it on a big screen TV, go buy some snacks and invite some friends over and have a comparable experience. And not get yelled at by ushers or have beer spilled on me by a drunk guy 2 seats behind me.
I have a conspiracy theory, by the way.
Go for it. What's your
conspiracy
theory?
No. Go for it.
It involves TV and streaming, right? So I think everyone is justifiably annoyed at Fox for having their streaming partner being an $80 a month service in English language.
Get T-Mobile and ViX.
ViX is probably the cheaper option, and you're going to have access to actual sports going forward. Both of them do offer a free trial, I will say, because I'm on that free Fubo trial right now. But my conspiracy is all 3 of Ukraine's group matches are on the streaming service. That is fishy to me, especially when you consider who the owner of Fox and their broadcasting.
That is very black helicoptery, sir.
So fire up those black helicopters, because I think a certain
108-year-old Australian man.
Yeah, a certain proxy oligarch is making some fishy decisions here.
I had not even gotten that.
To be fair, you might have dodged that bullet on this one, because
I was watching it.
Romania has pulled out a hot frying pan and proceeded to.
Maybe they just decided that Ukraine wasn't going to be very good, and that's why they put a ball behind it.
It's so weird too, because like somebody, I forget who it was, somebody was talking about this morning that like, this game could be good. Both of them like give up goals, both of them score goals. We could see fireworks. Like, y'all realize Ukraine hasn't played a home game in a minute, right?
Been a minute or two.
I've had a minor inconvenience that's kept them from playing home games.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my black helicopter moment.
Slight setback there for Ukraine. Yeah, so I'm 2 for 2 in my wild card thoughts for the Euros. I had
great tell.
Well, I had Albania as a number 3 getting out of group, and I had Ukraine getting out of group. So I'm not having a good start when it comes to my.
I mean, Albania very much could still get out of the group as a 3rd place team, and so could Ukraine.
At least you didn't take emotional investment in Scotland after whatever the hell they did Friday.
Speaking of Scotland, let's get into reffing down here.
Only in Scotland would they have argued about Ryan Porteous didn't commit a red card. There's a reason he is a starting center back in Scotland and nowhere else in the world, because he can get away with stuff like that. That was like Ryan Porteous central. That was the most Ryan Porteous decision, to commit a really dumb tackle and red card your team. Because in Scotland they'd have been like, maybe a yellow, man. Come on, your leg's still attached. You're fine, coward.
Well, that's the first play that I wanted to get into in discussing reffing down here this week, is the possible penalty and red card on Porteous as he was trying to get the ball away from Ilkay Gundogan in the Scotland-Germany match. Bart, if you would please, give me both sides of the equation on why this could be given a red, and obviously it was, but also walk me through possibly why you could go yellow here and not red.
So I think I'll start with the yellow card one first, because to me, it should have stood as a yellow card, because this is in my opinion, a legitimate play on the ball. This was not a player necessarily trying to grab or pull a player an attacker in the box, and that's what we're looking for, right? Like most of the time when you're talking about a legitimate player on the ball or play on the ball, you're looking at an attempt to kick at the ball, tackle the ball away, something like that. When you're looking at a non-legitimate attempt, you're looking at pulling or pushing or anything that doesn't involve your feet, really, and especially your feet in relation to the ball. So I think for this, Porteous, in my opinion, was attempting to kick the ball. So for me, considering that you gave a red card, gave a penalty kick, a red card would be in that double jeopardy category that we do not want to see.
Mhm.
A yellow card, in my opinion, should have been appropriate.
Okay.
However, that was a bad foul. He definitely steps on the attacking player's foot, and that is oftentimes a straight red card anyway. And that's why I think it was given a red card, because of the physical nature of the attempt to play the ball. That it wasn't, oh, you missed and kicked him, or you just happened to trip him. You stepped on his foot. It wasn't super high, but it was high enough to where you can see that that's a red card area.
Because what you intend to do and what you end up doing are two separate things. As Porteous is coming through, it looks like what he's trying to do with his left, I think with his left leg, is he's trying to slide onto the surface itself. But as he's making contact with the ball, gravity and then elevation kick back in for Ryan, and he ends up with that left leg making contact, and it studs into Gundogan. Despite what you thought it looked like he was doing, you have to take the studs into account. And
we also have to take into account that somehow the Man City tax applied here as well.
There will be billable hours if Gundogan. So Gundogan no longer being a part of Manchester City, we're going to take it out on him and go physical nature. Yes, Jarrett.
No, I mean you got to pay the Man City tax. You know who should be happy though, because Everton didn't have to pay the Man City tax this time.
Yes.
So somebody spared Everton from having to pay the tax. God bless them.
Yeah. I will say the penalty kick, it was obviously deserved. I thought the red card was harsh, but it did not affect the outcome of the match in one way, shape, or form, because I think Scotland actually played a little bit more defensively better after the red card. That was disappointing from the Tartan Army there.
You played a high back line, yet you chose to let Tony Cruz pick out his passes. So
it was, Jarrett,
I was
confusing.
I was apathetic.
It was the first thing that Landon Donovan pointed out, like within 5 minutes. He was like, why are they doing this? He's like, if it were me, I wouldn't do that.
Scotland doesn't really have the raw speed to play that high back line and
drop
things down.
No.
Because, God. Usually
maybe if you just play another left back as a center back, it'll work.
Oh, usually because they'll sit in that block, and they're fine sitting in that block because they are physical as all hell in the middle.
Yeah.
So they're usually fine sitting in that block, and like, hey, if you want to play it out wide and cross it in, we're gonna win those headers and we're gonna get it out, and then it's gonna land at the feet of like John McGinn. And then John McGinn's gonna turn and run. Like that's not a bad life to live. My only hope is that if this whole thing implodes over the next two games, that you have a conversation of moving on from Steve Clark. Because you need to anyway, because it's been 2 cycles now, and that's 1 cycle too many. I don't know, go get somebody like Moyes to run the national team, because at least like don't get like a Derek McGuinness kind of.
Oh no,
sit in a bunker Kilmarnock nonsense. Go get something. You like. What pisses me off to no end is you go look at Scotland's roster, especially in the midfield and the attack. Like, you have functioning players who play in other countries who are actually good at what they do. Act like it, play like it. Like, don't be afraid to try and pass the ball 6 times in a possession. I promise you can do it. Promise it can happen. I'm actively begging you to do it, but. Yeah, you did the thing where like you took a risk with starting Callum McGregor by himself singing from the back line. Nobody from the back line like followed. And I get, like, yeah, Germany's going to try and pull you out of shape at times with their forwards dropping back and then making runs and trying to change the shape. The center backs just stayed like they were freaking Stonehenge. They just didn't move. So, like, guys are making runs, and then you get this space in between the lines, and Cal McGregor is standing there like he's at the Battle of the Bastards, standing there with a sword in the middle of the field waiting to die. You finally flip it up. You put Billy Gilmore on, who started chasing more. You put on Lawrence Shanklin, who started chasing more and actually trying to pressure people. And to your point, yeah, when you went down to 10 and you started making changes, you looked better defensively because you were actually putting pressure on Germany up top. You weren't letting Toni Kroos sit there and pick out passes. Like, Shea Adams did it a little bit as the game went on, once the game was out of control. But the refusal to actually make changes in the first 15 minutes when you went, oh, God, no, we have problems, was just an absolutely blockheaded bound of nonsense. And credit to Germany for punishing the absolute hell out of them, as they should have.
Oh, boy.
Well, my hot take is you should have injected heart into the team. Literally, Shanklin should have been starting.
Shanklin should be starting. It would have been Lyndon Dykes if he was healthy.
Sure, but
like, Lyndon Dykes got hurt in training and was knocked out, and then also you could put Lewis Morgan on the field, who I don't know if it's because of this weird SPFL MLS fan
Oh, I'm
beef,
sure it is.
but there's this thing where, like, Scotland doesn't want players from MLS, I guess, in the national team for whatever the hell reason, because
That's
you
my black helicopter.
finally. But I bought the license for this helicopter a while ago. Like, you have Lewis Morgan, who was scoring at will for Red Bulls, getting into the national team finally because of injury, not because of he had earned it from the first point. They brought him in because they didn't have anybody else. Meanwhile, Ron Galt scoring 40-yard rockets for Vancouver, both of whom could help this team.
I mean, we've how long have we seen this? Because there's been other Scots in this league who are phenomenal and get no whiff of a. And
Johnny Russell.
As you would clearly state, Jarrett, there are some Scottish teams that are somehow putting players on this national team who are, I think the word is rubbish.
Rubbish, sir.
So, there's, not to disparage the SPFL, there are maybe 5 teams in that league that I would say are doing soccer in any way, shape, or form the right way.
Is it that many, Jarrett?
I mean,
maybe.
You got Rangers, Celtic, Hearts.
Hibs to an extent.
Hibs to an extent. I don't like to mention them, but yeah.
I know you don't, but, like, they actually have a functioning
Cabbage,
academy, which is nice.
Yeah.
Again, it's where John McGinn came out of. They'll produce young players. Hearts kind of have a little Auburn in them, which is always fun for me.
Oh, wow.
In that they will do the inverse of your expectation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Like Kilmarnock finished, I think, 4th or 5th this year, but again, that's Derek McInnes. Kilmarnock's not going to, they're going to sit in the lowest of low blocks. They're going to be absolutely miserable, and they're going to try and pop out for 1 or 2 opportunities a game kind of thing, and try and wait for you to make a mistake and then be super physical, which coincidentally is the thing I kept watching with England in their weird game, is that Harry Kane, Harry Kane's big chance in the second half, he got his big chance because he basically had to run through a center back for a header. And he jumped over and through that center back like a mom on Black Friday trying to go get a Tickle Me Elmo. Also, as someone correctly pointed out, Christian Eriksen died, came back to life, and has won multiple trophies. And in that amount of time, Harry Kane has not won anything.
Yes. Absolutely true. Yes. 2 other moments, and I think they're somewhat linked, in Spain, Croatia, with the possible red on the Rodri challenge on Petkovic, where Rodri fouls Petkovic. Michael Oliver gives Rodri a yellow. Then it goes to VAR, checking both spot kick and the red. Mm-hmm. The penalty stood, although I will say it looked kind of like Petkovic kind of milked it a bit, going airborne and trying to get some loft underneath him at the same time. And Petkovic's effort was saved by Unai Simon as a result of that. So element number 1 in that one.
Okay. I think going back to what we talked about earlier, making a legitimate play on the ball usually means you are using your feet to challenge and try to win the ball. And I think when you look at this, it's pretty clear that Rodri, while I'll give him benefit and say clumsily challenges for the ball, it is only with his foot. It is not a push from behind or anything like that. And so that's where, I see why this is only a yellow card. Mm-hmm. However, if you're going to give the Scotland player a red card, you should probably try to be a little bit more consistent, because this was more egregious when it comes to denying an obvious goal scoring opportunity than the Scotland one. But I'll try to be consistent and say I would only give a yellow card because you've given a penalty kick for both. And remember, we do not like to give red cards when we're also giving a penalty kick for legitimate plays on the ball.
Okay, so DOGSO now, where a defending player denies an opponent an obvious goal-scoring opportunity by committing an offense that was an attempt to play the ball or a challenge for the ball inside the penalty area, then it should be treated as unsporting behavior and the player only booked.
Yeah, so that's unsporting behavior. Is just a yellow card, and that's what we've been told to do. Again, that's for DOGSO, right? And that's where I think when you do look at the Scotland foul, Porteous, you can make the argument that it's not just DOGSO, it's an actual red card foul to begin with. At that point, it's excessive force. This was not excessive force. It was, what's the opposite of excessive? Minimal.
Yeah.
And I think that force. Yeah, I think that is probably the other thing that saved Rodri here is it was minimal at best, and it was a foul, as a penalty. I understand why people are upset, but it wasn't like he kicked him from behind or anything. He just kind of tripped him, which in the case of what we're looking at, that is a quote legitimate play on the ball.
Going through the activities this morning on the social medias, it looks like Pedro Amador is saying his goodbyes to Moreirense on his Instagram. So once again, keep an eye on it. Pedro Amador, Moreirense, possibly on a free with the window opening tomorrow. Now, the second element in that particular instance, where you have Petkovic steps up to take the penalty, saved by Simone. Loose ball goes to Perisic, and he squared for Petkovic to send it home on the second attempt. Checking for encroachment. Okay, so in this situation, walk me through what you're looking at here, where keeper has to be, encroachment, all these ideas that are attached to a penalty here.
So first off, Unai Simon, perfect goalkeeping here on this penalty kick, because as you see on the still, when the ball is kicked, his left foot is above the line, but it's within the vertical space that line occupies. Okay. So that's what you need to be. You have to have one part of one foot on or above the line. That is the rule. Because again, those lines extend to the heavens in their vertical space. So if you do not have to have it physically touching the line, but it does need to be in that vertical space, and he was. So that's perfect from Unai Simon. The problem here was the player who encroached, and mind you, there were a couple from Croatia that were
the one in particular touched the ball.
But the one who ended up touching the ball first, directly after the save, was a good yard and a half inside the penalty area at the time of the kick, and therefore we penalized that. Now, had it not affected the result, we would not be looking at this for encroachment the same way. But because he is the first player to touch that ball when it comes off either the keeper or the goal, we have to penalize that, and the result, indirect free kick coming out. So it was clearly an offense. It wasn't offside. I think a lot of people thought it was offside because the referee put his arm in the air. Remember, if they put the arm in the air, That is not signaling offside. That is signaling for an indirect free kick. And by the way, if you're a parent, please tell your child that does not mean you need to wait for me to put my arm down before you kick the ball. They can kick the ball whenever they feel like it. That is not me telling them to stop, because I have that conversation every single time.
I'm not surprised.
But yeah, that is just a signal for an indirect free kick. Because remember, we don't have signals, for calls in this game. We just point in a direction.
Yes. So, all right. So along those lines, there are times where, and I know that there are those that are still learning the game, kind of get confused when it comes to refs and ARs and the motions that they make, activity with flags, those kinds of things. You'll see folks who will be an AR, and it'll be, oh, by the way, what's in the mug and what is the mug? Sorry, I forgot.
Just coffee today, but we're drinking out of the share mug this morning.
Cow. Okay, exactly. One of the best scenes ever in the history of Will and Grace. When it comes to ARs and their flag movements, I know that folks get confused sometimes about flag up, flag staying down, wiggling the flag, those kinds of things. When it comes to ARs and their flags, what are the different things signifying what, in addition to what you were discussing with center refs and raising your hand like someone who does in fact care?
So the biggest thing to remember is that if a AR waves their flag, or just raises their flag, the flag goes up in the air, that is just a signal to the center referee, hey, I have something.
Okay.
That does not mean anything more than calling attention to the center referee. The center referee then has to decide, usually we use our own methods of deduction to figure out, okay, what would they probably call here? And then we decide, do we blow our whistle or not? Once that whistle is blown, this is the proper mechanics. We'll get into how these things actually work in the field. But
cool.
Proper mechanics is you put your flag up, you wait for the center referee to blow that whistle or make eye contact with you, and then you indicate what the actual infringement is. So if you put your flag up and then you see a wiggle or shake violently, that means I have a foul.
Okay.
If you see a point to somewhere in the field, be it up, middle, or down, that indicates there's an offside. And then there are other mechanics like pointing the direction of the throw in or pointing for a corner kick or a goal kick. But the reality is, if you have something for the referee that needs to stop play, you put your flag up and then you just basically wait.
Okay.
Now, what oftentimes happens, and this is because I think when you talk about proper protocol versus being efficient in your call making, you'll put your flag up and then almost immediately do the thing that you need to do. This doesn't usually happen on offside. Usually you put your flag up, wait for you'll put your flag up. And then at that point for the referee, the actual decision, like we all know that it's offside most of the time. Especially now when you have the headset communication systems and they can say, hey, I got an offside. And especially at the professional level that we're watching where the play has all but ended and we put our flag up. But usually what you'll see, especially for fouls, is the flag just goes straight up and we're wiggling it.
Yeah.
And that is also an efficient way to communicate to the center referee. There's an actual foul. Because sometimes you could put your flag up and it could be like, a whole other thing. But putting the flag up and wiggling it immediately helps the referee indicate that there is a foul. Because as a center referee, usually that means you need to manage a situation if there's a foul, because players are not likely to be happy with each other after a foul has been committed.
Yeah.
So.
And nothing like quoting 15 to 17-year-old lyrics from Alex, wasting no time on a Monday. For minor fouls, Alex, minor fouls, the direction from pro is, I want to see you wiggle it just a little bit. So that's where Alex is on a Monday.
Yeah.
Alex.
And I think that's fair. Again, the proper protocol is the flag goes up and then you wiggle after the referee either makes eye contact or blows his whistle. But I'm with you. I think it makes more sense to put your flag up and wiggle at the same time, because it is just an efficient way to make a call. Now, again, that does not mean play stops. The center ref is the one who has to blow the whistle for play to stop. And this is where I've seen this happen even at the professional level, where a referee will put his flag up an AR will put their flag up, and players seem to stop. That is not the stoppage of play. The whistle is. Also, Abby, when they saw something and they went to point in a direction for a throw in when it was obvious because they're waiting on the center ref, it's like they don't want to go in a different direction. That's exactly why we don't want to have cross signals. So usually you'll give an indication, the AR will, of where you think that throw in should go. You'll keep the flag on one side or the other, look at the center referee, and both make the decision together.
What about and Abby mentions a couple of different things, with fan frustration, where it's see something, wait to point in a direction for a throw, and it was obvious because they're waiting on the center ref, like they don't want to go into a different direction. And then Abby still worries about injuries on offside where they continue to let the play go past a certain point. And so Abby's still waiting for one of those kind of moments. I mean, that is part of that is the instruction that you guys have been given.
Yep. I'm sorry. That's not us. We just have to execute the instructions we've been given. Obviously, outside of the pro game, we're not. And I had to explain this to a young AR the other weekend. Mm-hmm. I was like, I don't have VAR. If it's offside, put your flag up because we don't want injuries. Right. And oftentimes at the youth game, especially, and I say this to my ARs, and most of the more experienced referees also say that you're supposed to wait for active involvement. And that means either you physically touch the ball or it's very clear that you're affecting play. But a lot of times at the youth level, if a ball is rolling through to the goalkeeper and there's a hint that an attacker may slam into the goalkeeper of any sort, we just put our flag up because we don't want to have that injury. So I understand your frustration, Abby, but they're professionals who are getting paid a lot of money to play soccer. And that's the risk they take. It's not what I would want, but that's what they do. But at the other levels, we do tend to err on the side of let's not cause a situation where two players could run into each other, and we'll put that flag up a little bit early than we probably should.
So then, to Abby's point, let me ask you this. What if there is a difference in opinion of a particular...
The center referee gets the final say.
Okay.
Now, they should be relying on the AR, depending on where that is, but the center referee has the final decision.
Okay, so there we go. So y'all in the middle rule is basically how it is. I am the be-all and end-all.
Yep.
Everyone must pay attention.
Yep. And again, Abby, you're also forgetting that we have...
Yeah. What, Jared?
Wait, what?
So are we cosplaying as MLS center refs with their their frequent work on VAR?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I do want to say to Abby, remember that they have communication systems, right? Yeah. They're talking to each other throughout the game. They are not just talking to each other about a foul or an offside. They're talking constantly throughout the game. And so oftentimes that decision is, oh, I think it hit white. No, I think it hit red. Okay, we'll go red.
Okay.
Oh, no, a deflection. Oh, okay, cool. Thank you. We'll go white. Stuff like that.
Okay. What's the plans for Soccer for USPOD for getting ready for Copa?
We are hopefully recording this afternoon. And then, that's what we're doing.
Okay. And then, so Soccer for USPLD will be out on the SDH network. Not necessarily the millisecond, but as quickly turned as humanly possible.
I'll be honest, John. I don't know if anyone else knows this. I'll be very busy.
Yeah. All right, well, break that down because you are going to be a very busy man.
I will be a very busy man these next 10 days. Abby, why do you have to yell at me for everything? I don't. Stop it. I don't set prices. I just communicate prices. Okay. So obviously we have a game here in Atlanta coming up to kick off the show. I will be at the pep rally thing that y'all are going to be at on Wednesday night as well.
Cool.
Then I'll be at the game on Thursday. Then the U.S. kicks off their tournament on Sunday. I'll be hosting a watch party at Fido Midtown if y'all want to come down and join the American Outlaws there. And then we roll into match week for the U.S. men's national team here in Atlanta for the first time in 9 years. And it will be a lot of fun. We'll have the night before party at Fido on Wednesday night, and then a big tailgate starting at noon the day of the game at the Atlanta United supporters lot. And then maybe I'll sleep on Friday.
Nah.
And then we have to play another game on Sunday, and we'll be hosting a watch party at Fido Midtown for that as well. And then I'm off to Salt Lake City to cheer on this team that doesn't have a real coach. And actually, we'll see. I have to go to the match obligatorily, but
obligatorily. Nice adverb there, sir.
But I'll be going to the Salt Lake City for all the hiking excursions.
Obligatorily
for the soccer.
Obligatorily.
I think your mom would like that.
Disappear into the desert for a while.
I have to go to the match, otherwise I get charged money, and I don't like being charged extra money. So
again, if you go into the desert in Moab, they can't charge you if they can't find you.
Well, they have my bank account information, John or Jarrett, so they can.
Abby wants to know if anybody's going to St. Louis this weekend. Anybody going to St. Louis? Let Abby know. Now, that'll be a fun one. And before you go, if you've never been to St. Louis, watch the True South St. Louis episode for all the restaurants and all the different nationalities of restaurants that you can get into. That is mandatory viewing. And if you wish to find some really cool hole-in-the-wall restaurants in St. Louis.
This is why we need Turner South, the old television channel back, where they would just go around to random cities. Be like, hey, here's a bunch of random restaurants.
Hey,
you should check these out.
Absolutely. You should do that. So, Bart, hopefully we didn't get you in trouble with your real gig by keeping you on entirely too long this morning. If you were able to multitask, hopefully, as well as you multitasked previously.
Yes.
So catch your breath, enjoy your coffee, and we will catch up with you soon. Looking forward to the next episode of the Soccer for USPod here on the SDH Network. Thanks for dropping by, my friend. I know that the fourth really held up the banner, and we went well past the number of minutes, but thanks for dropping by as always, my friend.
Yeah, we got some World Cup stoppage time in here. Jarrett, I wish the best to your boys. I'm cheering for them. I really am. Hopefully next game is a little bit better.
Just don't embarrass just don't embarrass everybody for the next 180 minutes. Go out there and fight. If you lose all 3 games, we can play your ass off. I can live with that, especially if it means Steve Clark moves on.
Yep. There you go. All right, we'll see you. Looking forward to the next POD. So there goes Bart. And Bart did the Irish goodbye. So